Wow, so this video was a little longer than intended, and if you make it all the way through it, great, and I apologize for it being such a long video because you come to YouTube to watch some short stuff. So I'll put the goodies in the beginning where it's finished, some B-roll footage and music, and you can watch me make a complete fool out of myself, I'm sure, through the entirety of the production. Anyways, figure what better way to tell you it's a long video than by making it longer by including this last little tidbit at the beginning. Of course, why not? Sure, it's longer than your average TV show. So don't forget to check the links below if you're interested in any of the parts that you see in this video. If you want to build something like this or something around this range, always be a good budget shopper. You don't have to stick or adhere to what people put in their links. I recommend where I shop at. That's up to you if you want to. But, you know, thanks for checking it out. Get subscribed if you're interested in this kind of stuff, because I'll try to do them often. And this is another kind of mid-range budget enthusiast build, so it's probably not at the cheapest end of the spectrum. If you're looking for a $300-400 build, we'll be doing one of those soon. And seeing what kind of results we get. Really excited about AMD's new Zen architecture coming out, and whatever they're going to price them at, we'll find out. But get subscribed, like it if you like it, dislike it if you don't like it. I'm saying that now because it's a long video and I don't anticipate many people to make it all the way through it. So once again, thanks. Basically, all I've really done to kind of start, as I did say I'd go through this kind of hand in hand, I did install the power supply, so that's what you see here is this power supply and all the cables that come with it. Went with the CX850M, and it comes with modular cables, so that can kind of cut back on what you need. I would have left the Molex out because I don't really need them. However, that awesome LOGISYS lighting strip, linked below in the description, you can purchase on Newegg for $18. I think they went up like $18 to 24 cents. So it's like $18.24 now, but still well worth the price in my opinion, because it's really good looking light. And if you watched any of the first video or the Manta build, then you'll see that. Now the Phanteks case has really good cable ties built into Velcro ones, so you can just kind of keep everything bunched together here with plenty of room behind the motherboard to work with, on top of having that basement shroud to put your extra crap in. Now I'm not going to keep everything down here because we'll be putting an HDD in here. It's going to be we're going to put the operating system on the Vector 180 SSD, and we're going to make the HDD our main storage. So that's actually a really simple concept that worries people sometimes, I think, but it's really simple. You plug them in, you say to connect them to the motherboard, and you plug in say to power to them, and you just install on the SSD and use the HDD as your main backup. It's nice, quiet, and gives you all the space you want without it being too much. So just a quick look, all I did was drop the power supply in, and I screwed in the 4 screws on the back to hold it into place. Pretty simple. With Phanteks, they've got this neat like pop and lock system, so if I wanted to take this off, it's one way or the other here. You push down, you've got these big holes here that go on the rubber, and then you just pull it forward and it locks into place, and that's where I'm going to mount the SSD. There is an option on the back of this tower where you can put it back here if you don't want people to see it. For instance, if you have an ugly one that's not going to match your color scheme. Now the reason I didn't show me putting this in is because, you know, I'm sure everybody could kind of have their own way to do it. What I did is just kind of zip tied them to the liquid cooling bracket up here at the top that Phanteks includes for easy liquid cooling installation. So I slid it out a little bit, zip tied them, cut the excess off, and I just sort of popped the control module up there so that it would stay tight, and I zip tied it to the bracket as well while running the infrared to the back. It should be well out of sight with the case cover on. So just as an idea, if you can see this very well, that's where I put that, and it should be well out of the way and give perfect even illumination to the tower itself. Now, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be putting the motherboard in. Woohoo, awesome. Alright, we're going to start with putting in the back plate for the motherboard. I'll try not to get in the way too bad. This is the, for whatever reason, hardest part for me. I don't know why. Just not ever able. Oh, we might get lucky here. We might get lucky. Oh my gosh. What? I'm sure I put it in upside down or something. Anyways, we put in the back plate for the motherboard. And then we're going to take our H110 chipset here. This is a 1151 Skylake chipset, so it's more your budget one. And I'm going to explain this pick for real quick, just so we're clear. This i5 6400 Skylake processor is not overclockable, so I picked a chipset that doesn't require any kind of overclocking capabilities. You will not be able to overclock on the H110 chipset. And furthermore, it doesn't support RAID, so if you're looking to RAID stuff, if you want to put like a RAID 0, RAID 5, whatever, then you won't be able to do that with this motherboard either. So it also doesn't have onboard LAN, and that's kind of where you save money. You need a USB dongle to try to hook that up, or you just wire it in. So just wanted you to keep that in mind, what the pick for this reason was, if that made any sense, because I can't use words well. The reason I picked this is because we're going with non-overclockable processor and we're not worrying about RAID. That's my main reasons why going inexpensive with the H110 Skylake chipset is for that reason. So, just so I'm clear on that. Anyways, let's put it in and get moving. If you are looking to upgrade, then going with a different chipset may be a better option for you if you want something that supports overclocking in case you want to get a more better processor later that you can overclock, such as the 6600K or the i7 6700K. Then you would want to go with a Z series, or if they introduce an X series, something to that effect. Let me bring my microphone over a little bit because I know you guys love hearing my beautiful angel voice. I cannot see because I'm creating shadows. Awful shadows. Always put all your screws in, by the way, you guys. I can't stress that enough. Why did I have to pick a black screwdriver, black screws, black motherboard, and a black tower? As being old does not help me here at all. And the reason, not only for just grounding purposes, but you want to have that motherboard securely in there for support of its own self. Making words happen so that it sounds like I'm being very informative. Probably not. It's pretty simple. ITX, many ITX motherboards come with 4 screw slots usually. If there's more, it's probably only going to be one more, and it'd be in the middle where a bracket brace usually is. Don't even know. Did I get it? Yep, I got it. You get the idea. Make you watch. I'm gonna make you guys watch me put all 4 screws in here. How painful is this? So painful. Watch me put all 4 screws in. How long does it take one person to put 4 screws in? Let's go over some nice features of how this motherboard looks. It's not that pretty with its beautiful copper heatsink for the self-control. But it is black, and black kind of matches the tower. We're going with a very hodgepodge color scheme, and I guess that ugly copper sort of matches our ugly copperish colored wires in the power supply 24-pin connector. This one's gonna get me, I bet. It's gonna be the one that makes me mad. God, I'm getting lucky. I got the back plate in, I got all 4 screws in without problem. Maybe, are we in? Or like you would just pretend you were in? Oh, you did I get you? Are you going? I think I got you. I feel like I did. Yay, we did it! Hooray! Now, that I didn't think about either. That's fine. We're gonna move on to the next part. We'll plug up. I guess I can do the next part right now. I don't need to stop the video. We're going to plug our 24 pin in, which I don't even think we need 24 pin in, the H110, I mean. Come apart, you. Thank you. So wrong. I do need 24 pins. What's wrong with me? I only need 4 pins for the CPU in this case because it's not going to require extra power. As once again, to stipulate the already said, we will not be able to overclock this processor anyways. Make sure your 24 pin power connector snaps in nice and firm. You want to feel this hook has closed on and around. You notice next to our 24 pin, that's where our USB 3.0 header is, and that's for the front of the case, which has 3.0 connection, so you want to make sure you don't not plug that in. I'll use as many double negatives for confusion reasons as possible, making this video as confusing as possible. Now, we should be able to split this. If memory serves, it appears to be. Corsair, good job at making your stuff really difficult to come apart. Usually I can't find a power supply that'll hold together well enough. Watch the magic happen here, guys. What the hell is wrong with me? And voila. Matching the squares, it's probably easier just to see which one fits. And is it gonna be you? I bet it is. I bet it's you. You bastard. Computers will make you work for it sometimes. They really like to. There we go. I'll just tuck you away in a minute and put you somewhere out of sight. Alright, now the main power is wired up. We've got the motherboard's power supply plugged in. We've got the CPU port plugged in. So we're good to move on to whatever I'm going to do next. Okay, so we'll worry about beautifying the cables and everything after the fact, just so in case you're worried that I'm going to leave crap all over like this. And we'll go on to just go ahead and real quickly put the processor in. Don't mind that dog. I can't stand that dog. If you hear her barking in the background. Now, and if you're wondering why I haven't put in the front panel I/O stuff yet, that's because that's going to be indicative to what board you choose and how that goes, but I will show you that as well. Now, if we look closely, there's an arrow on the bottom of the CPU. Try your best not to touch it. You'll probably be fine and won't damage it, but just do your best not to touch it. There's also notches, which you probably can't see well. I'll try to get some pictures of something up there. But there are notches that are going to match up with the board itself. We also have the same arrow right here to indicate that you want to put it where the arrow is down here, and you want this to sit in the notches, and you don't ever want to force a processor in, be it an AMD one that has pins or an Intel one. So if it says janky in there, make sure that you go back and make sure it's sitting comfortably and flat and it just kind of falls right in. And you leave this plastic part on here with the ugly Foxconn logo, and you just push down, apply pressure, and put the swing arm back under the latch. And that's how you put an Intel processor onto a motherboard socket. Good deal, right? So that can seem scary because you feel like you're damaging it, you hear the tension, but you're not. You're fine, I promise. You just want to do it just like I did it, and try not to touch the die like I just did. So that's a bad habit. Not like it's going to do anything horrible, but it's just not a good habit to have. So figuring out what this was, this is actually for only an Intel 11.5 number sign socket. It looks like it's got tape on the back here that we need to take off. It does, and that's just to kind of help brace it onto the back of the motherboard. So I'm going to take that off, and you won't be able to see this part too well unless I'm turning it around, make sure nothing's going to fall out. Move the heatsink, and we'll get this part out of the way. I'll save everybody the time of watching me put the input connectors in the front I/O panel. Alright, that troublesome wrapper is off of this thing, and we are back. Now, there is no real wrong. There is a wrong way to do thermal paste. I lied. If you don't put enough on there, that's bad. If you don't put any on there, that's even worse. But some people say do the P method, do the line method. I do the X method. There's no difference on it. You don't believe me? Go look up some videos. Some people test it. Linus Tech Tips has a great section now where they've done a like a bench comparison, and where he's tested all of them, including crazy spiral techniques. And I do just a thin line X, and we're going to be trying out there. I'm gonna put a little too much on the top. It is bad to put too much in the event that you just, like, for whatever reason, feel like covering the entire die. That's not a good thing. because if it is conductive, which I actually don't know if this is or not, I need to read that, which I use Arctic Silver, but if it's conductive, that's bad in the sense that if it gets down to the side, there's any kind of electricity issue, you could run into some problems doing that, and that's not always good. Now, I don't think I want my pipes facing this way. Nah. I'll do the pipes this way over the VRM area, which that's kind of, I didn't realize how not covered those are on this motherboard. It's interesting to me. Alright. Now, line this up with the holes. Get our handy dandy pile of the screwdriver out. And gently do one corner at a time, because this is the way we want to do things. Don't mind me, I know I look like I'm probably making a mess. Get in there. Try to be as careful as possible when doing this. Thought I had this one. Make me do this the hard way. Nothing ever goes according to plan. In fact, the camera's probably not even recording right now. Right. Making progress. Get our last corner. Loosely screw these on. You don't want to like screw one side down, kind of like I just did there because I thought I had them all. You don't want to put too much tension. You want to kind of go around in a pattern and tighten them little by little. That looks so much better than the Intel heatsink. Let's hope it can do some good. You don't want to add too much either too, because you don't want to flex the board and make it pull in on itself. But you want it on there securely. Just you don't have to go overly secure. Like that should be plenty fine. And sorry, had to get in there and look. Our CPU fan's up here, and I'll tuck that cable away, don't worry. I never worry too much about right off the bat making sure I'm managed. But I will always go back and make sure it's managed. And that's an ugly plug. It's not going to go well with the actual look of the board here. So, that's a well. What's the hold up here? Come on. Thought. I'm the boss. Building computers can be fun too if you get into it. And they're actually not as hard as most people like to think that they are. I don't think so anyways. I think it just takes a little bit of getting your hands dirty with them and trying it out and seeing what you think. Let's go ahead and at the same time, we are going to want to pull those in too. I didn't think about that. Because I need to have the HDD run as well. Go ahead and do this. Get that out of the way. And we got 4 SATA ports on this motherboard for mass storage. It's probably a little bit of overkill for this motherboard anyways. I'm not going to want these to go under. That's kind of my catch with some of this. That's my PWM. Big fan in the front, which I'm going to pull through the back so I'm not tangling it up and having to take out the other part later. The good thing about this one is we don't have too many connections at the bottom side here, which is nice, and that's nice. There's a CMOS jumper, by the way. I don't know if you can get a good shot of that. CMOS jumper is where you want to go if you ever make changes to your hardware. You take this jumper off and you just move it over, and that will reset your CMOS, which is your hardware information. It keeps all that on there. So if you change things out and you start having issues when you're booting up, that's where you want to change it, is that CMOS jumper. But what we're going to be doing is installing the graphics card, which I probably should wait on and install the other parts first. I'm going to go ahead and install those pins off camera so we're not burning too much time, and we'll get back into taking a look at it. Alright, so I brought the camera in for a little bit of a closer look. All I did was take the I/O connectors while I turned the camera off and plug them in. USB 3.0 into the USB 3.0 header here right before the 24-pin connector, which powers your motherboard. And then I plugged in the other things like your power switch. So you'll be able to turn it on, reset it, your HDD light, indicator, things of that nature, and the SATA. And I ran it under the SSD bracket mount. And hopefully our graphics card will fit in there just fine. And we'll be able to just place it right there. So that should be good. And we'll start doing that now. Hopefully. I didn't take those off. Jeez, I'm terrible. Here I am thinking I've prepared enough and I have not. It looks like a slide mount. I don't remember a slide mount on the last one. It's probably not. It probably just pops right off. We'll find out. One thing about Phanteks I wish they'd jump on board with, which they may be with their new Eclipse series that I'm anxious to build in, is I wish that they had non-detachable thumb screws to make management easy, so you don't have to put everything to the side and say, oh, I lost one of these. Where did it go? So, alright, we'll take that out. Don't mind me getting in the way of the camera, looking all pretty, my nice bald head. Make sure to take all of our plastic pieces covering the graphics card connectors. I'll hit the case every time I move. And we're going to take it and put it in. And I'm going to try to hide this ugly HD front audio cable. These ITX towers can be a tight fit sometimes. Try not to be too worried about them. Want to get my head in the way. Too much. Sorry. There we go. Should be a good fit. Go in there. Alright, so we'll get that put in. We'll get it screwed back down. And we'll be able to close this and hide some of that ugly cable management. Some of it, not all of it. It shouldn't look too bad by the time we clean it up and get done. And this way nothing's going under the fans. That was my main objective, is I didn't want anything going under the fans or coming up from behind or under the card. I actually could probably reroute those. That'd be a pain. But it'd probably look better if I rerouted them under the tail end of the graphics card, assuming that I have enough room for that. So we'll probably leave it like this for now. I might change it later. I don't know. I haven't decided. I'm real fickle about how I like my cables sometimes. But I'll see if it bothers me enough to want to change that. Anyways, let's get that in there. We'll get it wired up. And what I'm going to do is probably... I could try, because I got a little grommet down here, but I don't know if I got enough room for that 8-pin connector. But I'll probably try to route the 8-pin through here so that it's hidden to the best of its ability underneath this, to kind of keep it as clean as possible. Once again, I wish Phanteks would have included either a larger grommet under here or just more options to run the cables through. But that's you know, a small gripe about this tower. I think it's a really good tower otherwise to build in, especially. So let's do that. The nice thing about these bigger ITX cases is you can be kind of lazy with your cable management. I never advocate it, but this isn't beautiful, but it'll do. It'll get the job done. I used the 2 built-in and a couple zip ties to just kind of hold it there. Got plenty of room behind the motherboard to mount, and I'll be closing it up as soon as the emergency hard drive and RAM arrive today. So this is just kind of what it's going to look like back here. I'll be moving this out, pulling this easy drive bay out, installing a 1 terabyte hard drive in here that'll talk to or be my main storage on this computer for the SSD where the operating system will be. Anyways, I'm not trying to get too far off with that. So that's just a little bit of what the cable management will look like, and this is kind of what our insides look like here, which I'll pull that through a little tighter. And this will be where our operating system is. That's our solid state drive, the OCZ Vector 180. I would definitely go with a Trion if you're looking to save a few bucks, because you can save a few bucks there. I just installed that ID cooling fan that I kind of gave a bad review the other day for the aesthetic purpose. We have a big 200mm fan in the front that's going to pull a lot of air in and help cool not only the GPU, the power supply basement, but the entire ambient air temperature in the case itself. So that fan should be enough, but I guess it doesn't hurt, even if this is a sort of poor performing fan, to have an exit source. I like the nice dim glow that it gives, and it's more of an aesthetic thing than it is anything else. Otherwise, I would have, if I really felt like I needed it, put a nicer fan in there, maybe something not too high grade, because Noctua would not be a budget range. But I would say maybe just some, I think I got some stock $7-8 NZXT fans laying around as well. In fact, right here. Yeah, I've got like 6 of them right here. These would be not a bad option too, and you can purchase these pretty cheap, and they do the job. They do really well. So that's not what I'll be using, because I kind of want that nice light glow that it gets, but it'll hopefully look good. Anyways, I'm gonna have to cut some of this down because I realize how long it's going, but I will definitely try to leave in the important parts. So if this is longer than you would have expected, I'll put the finished part at the beginning, as some people just kind of like to see what it looks like finished and decide if they want to watch. But if you're interested in building it, this is more of a guide than it is just a build log. And if you have any questions, let me know if I miss anything or skip over anything. I feel like some things as I wanted to say, I just don't know if it's going to be relevant to you. For instance, on these small pin connectors that we have in here that I said I just kind of did off camera, because it's going to depend on really what your motherboard is and everything. And I'll put up a picture of this because it's important to know that your positive is always going to be indicated by a triangle. So when you look at a motherboard that says like your power LED, it'll have positive and negative, but then you'll kind of look at it and be like, well, which one's which? And if the motherboard, or I'm sorry, the tower manufacturer doesn't label it with positive or negative, which Phanteks did on 3 of them but not on 2 of them for whatever reason, then you look for the triangle on the back. It'll just be a little dark triangle. You kind of got to look around in the light a little bit to see it, but you'll see it and you'll be like, okay, that's positive. So you correlate the triangle with the positive connection, and that'll help, because a lot of people will get a motherboard and just plug those up wherever they want and be like, oh, it doesn't work, I give up. So just keep that in mind. Triangles are your positive. That's something I did want to mention. And as soon as our emergency RAM gets here, because I was sort of hoping he'd get here while I was working on it and I could not have to miss a beat. So if it looks like nighttime later, that's why. I'm gonna go lay down and get some sleep for right now. I'll come back, finish this later. We'll turn it on and look at it, and then it's gonna go off to my eBay store. So if you're interested in buying it, then feel free to do it. And in the comment section below, I'll have links to most of, if not all of, the products used. I know that you'll be hard pressed to find the green CX850 modulars, because now they've all been replaced with the newer CX yellow that looks like the RM box. But I got this really good deal on cheap, and you can, I'm sure, find something better if you need any recommendations. There's definitely a brand I would point people to called Sente. They're not a big high market brand like Corsair that you may have heard of, but they make really good stuff, and a lot of their stuff is 80+ certified, and I always recommend a good power supply. Try to go 80+ certified if you're going to be running it, and just for safety reasons too, because you don't want to put a cheap power supply in your computer and try to save as much money as you can in one of the most important components that people don't consider, or always consider to be in their mind the most important component. But that power supply is very important, and I can't stress that enough. I've seen so many blown up computers in the past, so don't go too cheap on your power supply. If you need recommendations for brands or good prices, let me know, and just leave a comment and I'll try to help you out as best I can. So I'm gonna go lay down and take a nap. I'll wake up. If it looks like nighttime, then I slept a long time, and hopefully the emergency parts come today. Get it finished. We'll put up some video. I'll put some video in the beginning so people can see it, decide if they want to watch, like I said, and I'll put some more finished stuff at the end where we kind of look at it. Check out how this, I'm really interested in how this little cooler is gonna do down here too. So anyways, I'm talking too long. This is gonna be a long video. I'll have to figure out where to cut. That's gonna be a pain because I recorded so much. So I'll figure out where to cut this and make it as simplistic as possible, but as informative as possible as well. Yeah, hooray, hooray, everybody. So it's a different time of the day, but the emergency parts finally arrived. So, without further ado, let's throw these last 2 pieces in here so we can move along. Loading. And always match up. Why do I always set my light up so that I can't see? I'm glad you guys can see what you're doing or what I'm trying to do. So when you push RAM in, you want to make sure it pops really nice. You got it nice and tight and snap in there. Figure, like I said, I take a lot of this for granted, but everything that you put in, you shouldn't see pins on the side. If you see these gold pins here, you shouldn't see these if you've got it snapped in good. That goes for anything like your PCI Express, any of that. You want to make sure everything is really well seated. And don't be afraid to push down with a little bit of pressure. Take like a hammer to it, but alright, I'm cheating. I'm tired of you guys having the best angle. I can't see what I'm doing. No. Open. Don't know me, I just hum sometimes when I do random stuff. Really? And I thought the I/O backplate was my problem, and there I can't install a single stick of RAM. Motherboard PNY. Not the brand I intended to choose. They kind of chose me with the last minute trees. That should look pretty good. It's a little weird and a little off color for what I was originally going for, but we'll make that work. You know, like this one was a strict color scheme anyways. Alright, we're nice and good and in there. So, let's flip it over. Because now we're going to put the last part in, which is usually one of the first things I put in. Hard drive. Why not go Toshiba to match Toshiba? If you've ever been worried about buying Toshiba, don't. I love Toshiba products. They're not the first thing I think of when I think mechanical hard drives. I usually go with good old Western Digital, as a lot of you probably do. Yep, I cut right through that. And if you can't see that, then don't worry about what I'm talking about. I usually order OEM, not this type. This is a 1 terabyte, 6 gigabit, SATA 3 mechanical HDD. What that means is it's one of the more inexpensive, faster hard drives. Not that we'll be running much off of it. It'll just pretty much be our storage drive. Listen to the beautiful crinkle of the anti-static plastic as I take it off camera most likely, because I think I'm zoomed in. This is not a integral part of the build that you need to see anyways. Anyone can unwrap anything from plastic. You know, these are lighter than I thought they would be. There's some of the 1 terabyte. Yeah, it's 1 terabyte. 7200 RPM, 64 megabyte buffer, which anything over 32 probably really doesn't matter anyways, but 64 seems to be the main standard, and some people go up into the hundreds. We'll set her right there for just a second. Pull out our toolless drive bay. Line up our holes. Sometimes this works right for me. Come on. I'm just having a day with putting simple installation together. Oh, come on. There we go. I don't need Phanteks, good on you. We'll just pop this bad boy back into the slot. Cable so that I'm not pinching everything. Let's give her some power from the power supply. Alright, and SATA power to talk to the motherboard. Always gotta do this the hard way, don't we? Of course, if we did everything the easy way, it would be too easy. So we stash some of our extra stuff here into that other hard bay drive, I mean. Once again, if I'm tired, I actually just woke up. built a little bit of this before going to sleep for you guys, and then I wake up and I build a little bit more. Hooray! Alright. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we're completed with this build, so let's power it on and see if it works. I literally just plugged it in, so cross your fingers. Looks like we came on. How about it? How about it? Don't like the flash, so we'll go with that one. But how about it? A nice budget build using the Skylake platform and having a really nice graphics card integrated. So just to recap, some of the things you lose out by saving a little bit of money with an H110 chipset is the ability to do RAID. So if you're interested in doing RAID, don't go to an H110 chipset. It's also the ability to overclock a processor because the board does not support overclocking. So if you get a 6600K, 6700K Skylake processor and you put it into an H110 chipset, you might as well have just bought a stock non-K edition for the reason of it can't be overclocked anyway. So we're going with a pretty low power but powerful build, and excuse me, we'll hopefully get this listed now just because I like building them for fun. We'll move on to the next thing that I want to build, which is probably going to be another Phanteks tower in the Eclipse P400 series, because I'm looking forward to that and I want to make sure that I'll be able to make something that looks good with that. It's another budget case, and just be sure to check the links in the description below. Follow them around and find parts you want. I always encourage people to be as budget-oriented shopping as possible. You don't have to go to the links I found. If you find better deals, that's great. But I try to find the best deals I can and just sort of throw them up there for you. And if you're somebody that's okay buying refurbished and used, then good on you, because I believe that that's not a terrible option. I mean, sometimes you get unlucky, but if you can find good deals being refurbished and used, then that's the way to do it. But once again, that's subjective. That's up to you. If you want something brand new, these are all going to be links to the brand new parts, and these are all brand new parts in this computer. So, that being said, let's roll the outro and we'll go on. I'll do some B-roll footage. I'll put some of it in the beginning because I'm sure I've totally taken the unusual amount of time here making this and building it, and I'll try to cut it down, edit it as best as possible, but I'm sure the attention span is not there for your typical YouTube audience. Not that you guys don't pay attention. If you made it to the end of this video, awesome, throw a like at it so that I know. And anyways, get subscribed, keep your eyes out for some more builds, and we'll do some more reviews. I got a review on that actual IDE cooling cooler that we have in there on the CPU now, so we can see if that's actually worth the $18 I paid for it. But yeah, get subscribed. I'm going to do some footage of it now. We'll spend some time making it look good, and I'll throw it up on YouTube tonight so that you guys can see it. By the time you're watching this, it'll be on YouTube, unless you somehow snuck into my house, looked at my camera and my recorded files, and say, ha ha ha, I got the insider look. Anyways, moving on.